Do you feel you're being pulled in different directions? You can't find a place between the rhetoric and all those competing voices? You don't know where to turn? Don't know what to trust? Or you just want to hear a lively discussion about relevant issues without picking sides or all the mudslinging? Well, welcome to the Rock Pile. Join us. That's Lewis and Oma as we talk about faith, culture, and a bunch of other messy subjects. You can agree or disagree. It'll be lively, likely messy, but we hope interesting. Come on our journey to understand. No rock throwing, just a rock pile.
Greetings. This is Season 2, Episode 4
of
The Rock Pile.
Rock Pile. Welcome.
So let's talk about Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
Nice, beautiful place. Affluent.
Yep.
An island.
Got dropped 50 people, people. That's all. Just 50 people.
Yeah.
And what did they do?
They shipped them off the island within 36 hours.
Yeah.
They sent them to Cape Cod, I think.
So, but what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander.
Well, that old saying, no.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the difficult part is that they have placards or their statements have been such, but their behavior is not consistent with what they say.
Oh, no. Very hypocritical.
Right. And not that anybody else in the world is not hypocritical. Just the fact is you're saying that we don't want to have to deal with the border because it's okay.
Yeah.
But so long as it's in a border town.
Yes.
So long as
those are overrun. El Paso, Laredo.
Right.
Oh, my gosh, Uvalde. It's all terrible.
Right. But regardless of what you think about, not regardless, but what you think about the issue as a immigration, etc., the main picture when we talked about anger and emotions in the first couple episodes, think about what this media and the administration are trying to do, and all the people, talking heads that get on the media and talk to people. Their whole point is to get people angry and blame it on the Republicans because of this. And therefore, you won't vote for them because you're mad at them because you think this is atrocious. And maybe you do. So the point is, I want to get to you and say, hey, this is unfair. You shouldn't have done that. And they make these arguments believing, maybe rightly so, that most people don't realize they themselves have been doing this, the administration has, for over a year and a half, all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
Jacksonville's, we've seen lots of places. So the point was made up north, the ones that say we want them, the point was made to them, well, then take
you
care
can
of
have
them.
them right there in your hometown.
Right,
yes.
Take care of them. And what are they doing? They're complaining.
Ship them off.
They're complaining.
Yeah.
So big picture of this is they're just trying to get people angry and to listen to their narrative, and they want to spin it so they can look like they have a higher moral ground. It's virtue signaling all over the place. And then what they want to do is say, you should vote for us or keep this borders open because we're justice. We are all about justice. We care about people, and you guys don't.
So I think we're probably going to see some court cases because I know California's been talking already.
Well, yeah, California already sent a letter up to the DOJ, and everybody's been jumping up and down. But we've seen a lot of court cases coming out the last year and a half, and you see them periodically in groups, but a lot more now over the last 2 or 3 years.
Oh, yes, we have.
The cases talking about those fundamental rights that are that we all possess inherently.
Right.
Not something that government gives
like
you.
the Bill of Rights.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, but those are fundamental rights.
Yes.
Those rights are inalienable. They're given to us.
Right.
They're not something that the government gives us. And you hear this on the media a lot. The Constitution doesn't give you rights.
No.
The Constitution protects those rights from the government.
Yes.
From them encroaching on a right you have. You can't take something that you have already. Well, they'll try to keep you from using it.
Yes.
But
they love to twist that around and make you think.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And so that's a misunderstanding when they say, well, the Constitution doesn't give you a right. I'm sorry, you're right, it doesn't. I already have it. So the reason why a lot of these court cases are important, especially when they talk about the fundamental, like say the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that's my definition for the moment. Those very fundamental rights are spelled out in these court decisions, and they go through a lot of detail to tell you the history behind it and how they originated and how the founders actually saw them, understood them in the cultural context of the day, and how that manifested itself then and through the history of the court. It's very important to read this. The reason why they're important to read is because the media doesn't tell you really what's going on. They give you a narrative.
But
whether
it's
they're
slanted.
omitting it or whether they're slanting it a certain way. But the fact is, if you don't read it, you don't know.
That's right.
The pieces they give you explain to you where in the Federalist Papers, Adams or Jay or somebody else spoke about this, or some other additional document like the Virginia Constitution or other places in history at the time when they wrote these things, and they had this information, and these people were all dialoguing, having this debate back and forth of what they're going to do. They put these things inside these court cases so you will know. It's like having a mini civics lesson. Yes, there's a lot of legalese in it, but the value to that is when someone on the news media says A, and you've read this decision and you know it doesn't say A, then you need to ask yourself what other things are they not telling you or are misinterpreting for you. It's not a way of accusing people. It's a way of being knowledgeable of what's really going on and who is telling you the straight scoop. So the court case that came out yesterday was a District Court of Appeals case from the Fifth Circuit. That's
From
the
Texas.
One, Texas. And we're on the 11th Circuit, which is for Florida. But the point is, this is important because ultimately I suspect it's going to end up in the Supreme Court because I don't see the platform providers, which this is addressing, letting this sit because they're going to try to get the Supreme Court to weigh in on, hoping it'll get what they want. And
Right,
it'll delay
right.
it. That's what they're trying to do. They'll try to delay it by using
Right. Like Twitter.
and the case is
Facebook.
Netchoice versus Ken Paxton. And it has to do with this House Bill 20 that Texas passed about not allowing the platforms to basically go in and censor. And if they didn't like something, they basically censored, they deplatformed them. There's a bunch of things they did. And the Texas legislature passed this bill and said, you can't do that. You can't censor based on these things. And there's some parameters that they set out, and it's spelled out in there. But essentially what the court said is, they said your First Amendment right that you're alleging is not the right to censor people. And so when the platform said, oh, in the beginning, we're just a place where people come in and talk. Well, if that's true, and you have that's not, then you're censoring somebody else's speech. That's not your speech. And so
Right.
they go into quite a bit of dialogue about this and a lot of other things that the platforms are making about their ability to censor people. And the court said no. And this law, HB 20, basically says that it's viable and they can continue. Texas can do it. Now, of course, the platform will probably appeal it and go to the Supreme Court.
So let's talk a little bit about the Durham case. And, the Mar-a-Lago seems to be connected to it.
Yes, they are connected because the players in one are the players in another. And so likely the evidence in one is likely going to show up in the evidence of the other. They're making all these allegations. We don't know them to be true. They're just allegations. They haven't proven them.
Right.
But they want you to believe they've proved them because they keep leaking these documents and making these statements. So what I would encourage individuals to do is look at the pleadings, their arguments, because in these pleadings, whether it be a motion for this or a motion for that or interrogatory answers, whatever it is, they give you an introduction and then they tell the story of what's going on.
Oh, there you go.
So
That
then
would
you
help.
get an idea of what's really going on. If you just listen to the news, that's not necessarily what you get. You're going to get what they want you to believe. This whole thing, what we keep saying is read it for yourself so you can believe what you read,
Right.
not what people
What the rhetoric
tell you.
is, yes.
Because otherwise you're going to be it's going to be Orwellian for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell you one thing and they're going to say you got to believe the party line no matter what it is, or else whatever. So this case, Durham is getting ready to try. It's a criminal case
Right.
against an individual who supposedly lied to them or the FBI, etc. I won't go into a lot of detail. But read the pleadings because it gives you the story. And he recently filed a response, a motion to deny something. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. I have it sitting on my laptop. But they give you their position. So what you're seeing is the arguments from both sides now, because they're giving a lawyer say, well, you shouldn't do this because of this. And the other saying, well, I get to do this because of this. It tells a story. And if you read those, you'll follow along. You say, well, that's a lot of reading. If you want to know what's really going on, you got to take the effort and read. So these two cases, the special master now in Brooklyn, and I've been there, and I believe I had a case in front of this judge, and he's a good judge. We did a lot of, mediation, so the judge interacted with us quite often. And these people, the individuals they're going up there, this judge is sharp.
Yeah.
And he's going to do the job that they've asked him to do. And you've got to remember, if not mistaken, he was a FISA judge, and one of the parties have already been around and asked him to do something, and it's been shown that whatever that wasn't a true statement. Now, I can tell you, just ask yourself, if someone came in and told you something that was true and you signed off on it and then found out it wasn't true later 2 years ago, I wouldn't want to be going in front of that judge.
Oh, gosh, no.
No. So watch what this. Now, I'm not saying the person's going to be slanted.
It's going to be interesting.
It's just going to be interesting because, that just doesn't set well. I don't care who you are. So watch that and read those pleadings. They're out there. I'll try to attach some of them as we go along, and that way you can read them if you want. But watch the pleadings on both of them and watch them start to come together, because the parties are the same. And so there's a bigger reason, 40,000 foot thing. Look at the 40,000 foot piece here, not just these two as if they're totally separate, because they're not. They're not.
There's a reason for both.
There's a reason for both, and you say, well, it's just a guy just told us a statement. What's the big deal? It's not that. It's the entry of evidence of the things that these people were doing. You're setting the foundation for something in the future, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh, this is such a waste of time." If you set the great foundation, you can build a huge building. Yes. And if you're going to go after people for RICO charges potentially or something like that, you need a really good foundation.
Solid
because
foundation.
Once this evidence is admitted and people have testified, they're not going back. They're not going back. So they're building on this, and they get this in there. You know they got people in there that are going to be testifying because they don't want their name to be called into a piece of paper and they're getting indicted for something. So now they're cooperating. So watch what happens next month when they start cooperating and they come in and people get thrown under the bus. Just wait. It'll be interesting.
Okay. So, we started with Martha's Vineyard.
Right.
So let's finish with the Electoral College.
Okay. And you say, well,
how's
that related?
Yeah.
Well, let's first start off by recognizing that Congress, if they wanted to close the border, finish the wall, and do those things, they could. The Democrats control the Congress right now. And
there's a reason they want it.
But if they don't do it, there's a reason why they're not doing it.
Right.
Now, they'll take the position that this is all about some sort of being virtuous, something to do with humanity.
I think they've shown,
and I think they have people. There are people who do care. So I don't want to put everybody in a big.
That's true.
A big box. But if Congress was concerned about the safety and welfare of individuals that are drowning in the river, etc., there would be things that are going on that's not going on, and you wouldn't see people getting kicked off the island.
All this.
They would be kicked off the island.
That's true. That's true too.
So if they're anyway. So, not about ethnicity or where people are from. Let's go to the Electoral College. If you go to it's like 538 votes, electoral votes from all the states. You only need 270 to actually win to be the president, regardless of the popular vote. And that's been a contention back and forth for the last 3 or 4 elections, if not more. Mm-hmm. If you historically look at the data, you'll see that certain states vote Democrat and Republican. They have consistently throughout
their history,
the last 100 years. And they know this.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that do this polls and all the statistics, they know what the likelihood of people are going to vote a certain way. Right now, I think the split is somewhere like 193 for Democrat and more like 170 for Republican, something like that. So you really need less than 100 of the remaining ones in order to win. So let's say you let 20 million people in, just for a round up number.
And you make sure that
And
you're
put
putting
those
them
in places where the
specific
border
places.
towns are typically red.
Right.
And you flip those border states to blue.
Right.
You essentially then would have the ability to elect the president from that point on, if you had a candidate that everybody would vote. But most people, or a lot of people, will vote party line regardless of the candidate. We've seen that happen, and regardless of what candidate you like, it happens every time. We've seen that before. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is, they want to make it about something or a couple issues. They talk about, well, this is about race, or it's about not liking other countries, or don't want people to have these things. Look, if I was from a foreign country that's coming in here and I was in the situation they were in, I'd be walking myself across that border.
Oh, absolutely.
I would. If you're giving me a free phone, free house, free food, I would be the first. I would be running to the line. So
right.
I don't.
And that's just human nature.
Right, I don't blame them, because I understand, or I'm trying to understand. And we've traveled in mission groups before and seen countries where, we've experienced it before. Mm-hmm. But the point is, if you can get individuals, and then all of a sudden you can make those people citizens, 20 million of them additional, and you have given them these things, what is the likelihood they're going to vote for you? Pretty high.
That's pretty high, yeah.
That's just human nature. I'm not putting a judgment on it, just saying, think about it. So they want you to think it's one thing, so that way you're prohibited from actually speaking against it, because therefore it makes you a label.
Yes.
What I'm saying, think about mathematics, about the Electoral College, which has been one of the biggest gripes about the way it's set up, is the Electoral College, and they don't like it. Okay, well, how do you get around it? Well, this is how one way you try to work it, to flip states. And if you can flip them so they'll be consistently your side, you then control the presidency.
Yes.
And according to Plato, it doesn't matter if you're one. If your goal is to be focused on yourself, and you're an oligarchy by definition. And an oligarchy, and the founders were afraid of, either by one or by many, a tyrant's still a tyrant.
Yes, it is.
So we have to be careful to think about this at the 40,000 foot level, about what's really going on, and the need for immigration reform and correction in the borders is all about citizenship. It's about responsibility, and it's all about helping people the way they should be helped if we're going to help them, and doing it in a way that honors all people who want to come to this country. All people. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining and sticking with us today. Please subscribe to Cairn's Rockpile Podcast. We're on most podcast sites: Spotify, Podbean, Apple, Google, Samsung. Also, our website and spotlighted organization are in the podcast description. Please share it with your friends, family, or anyone you know. Join us next week. Until then, stand firm, be the light, and most importantly, pray. Blessings.